And thanks so much for staying with us, everybody. Social media impacting every aspect of our lives, really, including our teens and schools. And in the latter part of that, it's not always such a good thing. Here to talk about that, Gulfport School District Superintendent Glen East. Good to see you, Glen, and thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. You guys are always fighting this. This has become a modern, contemporary problem that is very real, whether it's TikTok, Facebook Live, Instagram, you name it. Kids want attention, and in many cases, it involves guns and things like that.
It can, Dave, and that's the whole issue that we're fighting every day in the classrooms, not just in Gulfport, but when our peers are talking, my peers are talking with me, there's always this, what do we do about this social media world, which can be the greatest thing, yeah, but can also lead down a wrong path. And so it's just a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to be a conversation that needs to be had with families about what they need to tell their children. As my mother always said, you know, you're living in my house, I'm going to ask you what I want to ask, and I'm going to find what I want. So being able to, that parent to say, I need that cell phone right quick.
Yeah, but you know, you bring up parents, and I'm with you 100,000%. But that's easier said than done in many cases, in many family dynamics. And it's really too bad that it really falls on the school a lot of times to intervene. I mean, you guys need to concentrate on test scores and reading, writing, and arithmetic.
I just want kids to be able to read, write, and do some mathematics. At the end of the day, test scores will come. But you're right. And so we try hard in the classroom to use those different areas, different devices, different apps, if you will, to help in the education process. But then you also have to keep your eyes constantly on where they're going, where they're heading, who's trying to deviate off and find some place they don't need to be, either purposely or by mistake. And so you have these things in place, and you try to take care of it, but at the end of the day, it's those teachers' eyes talking to children and saying, look, if you have a problem with somebody, let's talk face to face.
And, you know, it gets very dangerous because nobody wants, and I'll use the term police state for just for the sake of argument, but constant monitoring, cameras in schools. I mean, I don't know if there would be a department at the school that would monitor social media. I mean, we don't want to go there, so that's a tough one.
Definitely not. And again, growing up, you and I both made mistakes we should have made, but you learn by those too. The problem with the social media piece is once you're out there, it never goes away. So you and I can have a little issue. We're over it by Friday, but then all of a sudden, in the social world, media world, what you said to me 3 months ago pops back up and starts the whole thing over again. So constantly keeping an eye on children, constantly teaching them, working with them on how to communicate with each other, so important.
What about just, and this is right off the top of my head, what about teaching a course on responsible social media?
Might be a good thing to do in the long run. We do a lot of that training the first few weeks of school, but there is no course at this point. Might be a good idea, but again, it's math, science, English, and social studies we're trying to focus on, and of course takes away hours of the day, so it's a catch-22 at the end.
Now, we've seen cases where there is an aspect of the social media where it really could have been a lifesaver in some cases, because in the teen world, everybody sees and knows what everybody is up to. And if a student, and you encourage them to do this, I know, if they see something inappropriate, they'll go to school officials with it, or they'll tell their parents or something.
And I can speak for Gulfport, but also my peers. The counselors at school and the number of kids that say, look, this is out there, can you help? Their friends may be in trouble, reaching out. They may be squabbling, whatever the case may be, but having those adults to go to, and the key to schools is acting on it, not in a disciplinary fashion, but in a let's talk fashion, and let's work through this. And let me remind you, at the end of the day, what you put out here may be on the job site that somebody's looking for you and you don't get a job because of this conflict that you have on social media. You're right, it's about talking, kids being proud of where they are, and going to the adults for help.
And besides school and parents, there's the community, of course, because we see so often. I know there was a case at one of your middle schools where I think there were it was an unloaded gun, but it was in a bathroom. There were other cases where students were riding around allegedly with guns outside of the car window, and they're videotaping it, and they're getting all of this attention. Mm-hmm. And it's just this culture, this generation that thinks that's acceptable, and I scratch my head. I don't get it.
Well,
guns.
I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, though. Family has the greatest influence over children, no matter what, at the end of the day. good or bad. Family has the greatest influence. And we have to keep that conversation going. I didn't grow up in a cell phone era, but I knew my mother and father knew what I was doing, and it seems like down the street, if we got in trouble, we didn't have cell phones, but by the time we walked back in the house, that community communication was there, and everybody knew what was going on and was not scared or wanted to make sure that community stayed strong by talking to each other.
And finally, Glenn, kind of on a similar subject, because it would involve guns, when we talk about school security, where do you think Mississippi is right now, and where do you think we're going in terms of school resource officers? There's this ongoing debate over whether or not teachers could voluntarily carry weapons in the name of school safety and security. What's your sense of where Mississippi is going on?
So
that?
first, I'm very satisfied, very knowledgeable in knowing that our schools are doing the best they can to make us hard on the inside and be mindful and protect our kids. I'm intrigued by this guardian concept that's kind of going through and being discussed right now on what we need to do. I will tell you, Dave, at the end of the day, there are not many teachers that can carry a gun and be successful with that, whatever
You
that
mean
means.
they don't have the desire? They don't.
It's not in our DNA. Our job is to try to help you, and we are immediately going to go to what can we do to get out of this situation for this student. So there's going to be it'll have to be through this process some very strong training and really identifying those teachers.
So the guardian, that's like for retired military, retired law enforcement, and people who.
They're also talking about training teachers over a period of time like you would a police officer, a community police officer. That's all conversation that's out there right now. I'm interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, me too. Glen, it's always good to see you, Glen. It's a difficult subject to talk about it, but we always appreciate your candor and your insight.
Thank you very much.
Well, a federal